holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you fuel up for brekkie, lunch, or dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. They just drop them at your door, people. You'll save time and eat well. You'll stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while taking all of your holiday to-dos in stride with good meals in the tum-tum. If you're too busy with all this stuff, these meals are easy to get done. They taste great. All you've got to do is head over to factormeals.com/expandingreality50 and use code expandingreality50 to get 50% off. That's code expandingreality50 at factormeals.com/expandingreality50 to get 50% off.
Right now, new and current customers can get any phone for free at US Cellular, so you can connect with all your family members this holiday season. You could even call your aunt, who always makes you talk to your cousin, who's a dog. Or, maybe just send her a festive text. Get the gift of connection at US Cellular. Get any phone free today. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com for details.
We value human connection with fewer distractions. US Cellular, built for us. Visit your US Cellular authorized agent, Cellular Advantage, located at 918 South Locust Street in Glenwood.
A choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a run.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expanding reality. A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Welcome to Expanding Reality. I am your host, Brandon Thomas. On this very special episode, we have Cathy Trinh joining us. Now, Cathy is an award-winning global humanitarian, as well as the author of 2 books, which we do talk about, and also her wonderful podcast, Stay Unmuted. All of the ways, of course, to find her, guys, located down in the show notes. Y'all are really going to enjoy this conversation. She is fascinating. We talk about her personal growth and insights, as well as her spiritual journey, the definition of self-actualization, as well as limitless possibilities, and it's just a phenomenal conversation. So, again, guys, all the ways to find her located down in the show notes. As well, down there is going to be our resource links. Now, there are a couple new ones that we've added to, along with Food Forest and Opus, which is Red Circle. So if you want to start your own podcast, we have just recently switched hosting over to Red Circle. Highly recommend them, so definitely check that link out. As well, the Manifestor's Guide, guys. Check that thing out down there. There's a promo code that gives you 10% off. Just type in Expanding Reality, all caps, no spaces, as well as that is a special link for you, the listener of this show, that gives you a great discount on top of that. So check those out in the show notes. While you're down there, look at expandingrealitypodcast.com. That is going to be links to all of the socials. All the lives are replayed there. Too Hot for YouTube's up in there, as well as the merchandise can be linked and found from there also. But while you're over there, definitely sign up to become an Expansive Insider. If you go on the front page of the website, there's a light box that pops up that will give you 10% off. So go check that thing out. That's where all the bonus episodes are, our expanded panel series that we're doing, as well as all the cool collaborations. There's tons of content over there, guys. So go check that out for sure. All right, so let's get to this incredible conversation. Without any further ado, Cathy Trinh. Award-winning global humanitarian, author, podcaster, you just seem to do it all, so we're going to cover most of that tonight, I hope. So if you don't mind, for my audience that's not super familiar with you, will you just introduce yourself for us?
Yes, Brandon. Well, I'm really excited to be on this conversation with you today. Thank you for the invitation. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Cathy Trinh. I'm based out here in sunny Southern California. I just a couple of background and statistics. I'm 44 years old. I have a 13-year-old son. I am a single mother. And yes, I am a global humanitarian. I just won an award back in last month for the Asian Woman Peace Communicator, and that's what I won the award for. And I can't wait to expand on that. But I have also written 2 books as well. So my first book was called The Journey. It's Mastering the Art of Slowing Down into a Beautiful Existence. I do run an executive search firm as well, so I'm very well connected to a lot of very high level professional CEOs and CFOs as well. So that's my day job. What I love to do on, behind the scenes and after hours is to help my community in every way possible, because I do come from a place of from the recovery space, and that's where I found myself. That's where I found a lot of self-discovery of who I am today, and I'd love to expand on that as well. So that's a little bit about me.
I love it. And this is wonderful. Yeah, it's a great way to kick it off. And thank you. I always thought the term global humanitarian was pretty interesting, because if you're a humanitarian, it should be global, right? It's a little redundant, kind of like assless chaps, like they're just all like that. And so of course, the fact that you are a global humanitarian, like that delineates you from anybody who's just doing local work in their community solely, which I definitely want to talk to you about, because that's a very interesting thing to me. So with your work in global humanitarianism, like what does that look like for you? What's your focus with that?
Well, I guess I'll take a step back and give you a little bit of background on why I do the things that I do today for the communities that I do it for. So when I was a little girl, my teenage parents and we escaped Vietnam. Our country was destroyed, and it was taken over by the communist regime, and we were forced to flee our country. Our boat was lost at sea for 7 days, and we were discovered in the middle of the ocean by a U.S. Navy ship. And so from an Indonesian refugee camp, we stayed there for about a year. We went to Orange County, of all places. So, I grew up in the OC of all places. I did have a lot of trials and a lot of little mini traumas that added up, where I had to seek help. By the age of 22 years old, I would consider it as my first rock bottom. I dabbled into a lot of drugs and alcohol, and I lost my spirit. I lost my soul. My parents could not recognize who I was anymore. I was just like a lost soul. From that point on, I have been what we call, in recovery, we call it trudging the road of happy destiny. And so it's trying to find peace, trying to find happiness. But where I found the peace was I found the peace within myself. I was always seeking self-sovereignty in other people, or just seeking, protection and safety and care from outside, very expansive thinking from outside forces, but I found it within myself, and there was just a lot of legwork that I had to do to get me to where I am. But along the way, within the past 20 years, I have met a lot of people in the nonprofit space, a lot of addicts in recovery as well, people that have grown and expanded and learned and have given back for what we have been freely given, which is the freedoms of self. So, I do a lot of this work, and I do it from my heart. I do it from my love and love and service. That's our code. That's our moral code. And so, with from a global humanitarian standpoint, because I have been trudging this road of happy destiny in this space, I don't have what a lot of the things that we see right now in society, a lot of the hate crimes and all of that. I've never been discriminated against. So it's hard for me to really talk about hate, because I believe that anything that's against anything else is still war, an act of war. So, I do communicate peace, and that's it. It resonated with a very large group in Georgia, over on the East Coast. And when they heard about my story, they asked and invited me out there. We've had multiple conversations on what brings me the most joy and how I can help to communicate this peace across the globe, so that we can just remove, I guess, Asian hate crimes or whatever the case was. But that's from a global humanitarian standpoint, that's that's the message that I want to give to the world. And a lot of people, it resonates with a lot of people because they just don't understand why I don't have the language, to jump on other podcasts to talk about discrimination, because I've never been discriminated against.
Yeah, but it's definitely out there. I mean, and we know this. And, what's horrible about this is, it's much more of a societal and learned thing, right? And I've, kind of got the perception that it's kind of engineered that way to kind of keep self really, really divided in as many ridiculous ways as possible. But you and I share a global humanitarian effort here. We both give people back to themselves. That's one of my biggest missions here. And so to hear somebody else do it in the way that you do and how you've niched into a community that really needs the voice, that's a beautiful thing. So what gives you hope? Like what gets you out of bed in the morning, keeps you moving forward? Like, what do you look forward to?
So one of my missions in life is to transform people's lives, because my life has been transformed. And I keep referring back to this piece. It's like everywhere I look and everywhere I go, I wake up with this sense of, there's no anxiety anymore. Like I don't have anxiety. I have no worries. I feel like I live in a very Zen space nowadays, in my life. So to transform people's lives, by changing at least 10,000 people's lives, and then inspiring others so that they can learn how to inspire and change other people's lives. So that's really what my hope is. If I can just get the message across the globe, but just to 10,000 people. It doesn't have to be millions of people, because I know that the work that I do in the world is able to elevate other people. And it starts within the home. It really does. And that's another message that my hope is to reach as many kids as we can, because it does start very, very young, with all the crimes that have been happening and all the shootings. It's, one of those children they were lacking something. That's why they had to act out. So, I raise a child who's a teenager, and he's seen his father go in and out of prison, and also go in and out of mental hospital. So mental wellness is like a huge topic within our home. And we talk about that all the time. I'm very, I love to communicate with my son a lot. Him and I have a very, very special bond. He's like my little twin flame. Like if the flame was like growing so big, if you split it in half, it's just like me, and it's having a strong bond with our children. And that's, I think that's a lot of adults need to get their act together, number one, and then pay attention to their kids. And especially when I see this time and time again with addicts in recovery all the time, we're just so selfish and self-centered. It's like, it's all about us. It's like, oh my gosh, like, oh, I can't stop drinking. I can't stop doing all of this. But I'm like, but how about the people that you're affecting around? Your kids are being affected right now so bad. And by God's grace in the universe and source, like I was able to come to, and I figured out the secret, a long time ago. And so it trickles into my family too. So
it's fascinating. And again, because of your story, because of what you have experienced, you're able to articulate this in ways that are very useful and helpful for people. So, 10,000 people, that's a rookie numbers, girl. We'll get that with this show. We're going to bump them up, because that's one of those biggest things. It's not that your goals are too high and you're missing them. It's that they're too low and you're hitting them. We're going to get you to 100,000. I'm going to go ahead and say that right here. 100,000 of your aligned people to be members of your project here. And I don't think anybody would disagree with that. That even in itself is kind of a rookie number in my mind. You've got just such a great message. You've got a lot of heart behind what you're talking about. And that is something that's so attractive, is your authenticity to really want to help people. And that is something that needs the spotlight. And so I'm grateful, again, that we're having this communication. So when we talk about possibilities, a lot of people feel that what's available to them is kind of capped, or there's a ceiling to this. Number one, do you feel that that's true? And number two, if not, how do we create limitless possibilities for ourselves?
That's a very unique question. And I sometimes, because of the transformational work that I do in the world, what I always say is that in transformational development, it's a very nonlinear process. It really is. And it's almost unrecognizable. You and I just met, just 15 minutes ago, but I feel like I've known you for a very long time. But the only reason why I know you is because I've created a space of nothingness. And if I don't, a lot of times, we as adults, we walk around this with our 10-year-old stories all the time. And because of the work that I do in the world and in my own life, I've been able to figure out what that story looks like and just really compartmentalize it. And just it no longer serves me. And being able to create coming from a place of nothingness, you can create anything. If I say love, and love falls out of my mouth. If I say chair is going to fall out of my mouth. And anything that we say, we can create. And that's what the limitless possibilities can look like, really, at the end of the day, because a lot of people are really, really held back by our self-limiting beliefs and whatnot. And I mean, it's so cliche to talk about, but it is so true, right? At the end of the day, we're just so held back with our like all the negativity, relationships with family. Sometimes when I speak to people, and whether I'm coaching them or if I'm just in a conversation with them, I really pay attention to what they're saying. It's like, where is this coming from? Who am I actually talking to? Am I speaking to their mom right now? Am I speaking to their coworker? What does that relationship look like? But again, for me, my experience, in order to create unlimited possibilities, is just to come from a place of nothing. I really had no expectations on, you said 100,000 people. I'm like, okay, I know I'll get to that. I know I will get there, but I need to get to that 10,000 people mark first, because I know that the work that I will do is going to affect so many people out there, and they're just going to carry the message through me and around me, above me, for past, present, and future.
Hell yeah. Well, add a few more to your list. So we're already there with you. So I love this. Now, and you've mentioned it earlier, and I just definitely wanted to touch on this, is self-actualization, because this is how you get from that place of nothing, from that place of just stripping it all down, in tarot, they call it the tower moment. And, there's all sorts of indicators that is how, that's how you know that you're really about to level up, is when everything just goes to crap, right? And so creating from that space is a beautiful way to move into this next thing that you definitely stripped all the stuff away to achieve, just the opportunities for. And this is where you find all the open doors and everything. But this really achieves you, or offers you rather, the opportunity to realize self-realization, self-actualization. And that's the place that you create from. So tell me about your definition of self-actualization, and have you found it or not?
I would say yes, absolutely. 100,000%. I'd like to share that, because I've been doing the work of in recovery, and anybody that has been in when we call it recovery, or living a sober life as a sober member of the 12-step program, we are, if we're really doing the work, we're actually looking at we take inventory of everything, and it's we can learn different programs within a day. You can go and take a workshop and you can learn it for a day or 2 weeks. But the goal here is this, and the trick is to take what you've learned, and you have to live it for the rest of your life. It's like a never ending, it's never ending. It's always going to be growth. It's also always going to be transforming as well. So years ago, when I first came, and I ended up I'll say this online, but I broke all my pipes and I dumped my baggie of the drugs down the toilet. This was like 20 years ago, October 22nd, 2002. That's when I did that. And that's the only thing that I did perfect, right? Everything else has been really never been tiptoeing through tulips at all. Life has been really, really hard. It goes up and down. I've had cancer. I've had, I've had deaths in the family. I've had friends that had just 2 years ago, for example, had just done his TED Talk. And he was out there on a mission to talk about suicide. And during COVID last year, he ended up, committing suicide. He jumped off a cliff. So my heart goes out to anybody that's sick and suffering today. But how I got to a place of self-actualization, Brandon, is the legwork in the recovery programs that I've done. I belong to, and I practice all kinds of things. Like I realized that I had a problem with body dysmorphia. I had every time body dysmorphia is like when you look in a mirror and you're never satisfied and something's wrong with you all the time, and maybe it's because you were told that you were not good enough ever since you were a kid. I've had that. I've had food issue, like food problems. I've had codependency. I have had pornography issues too. Like I was so addicted to the internet, anything that kept me high and distracted. So, and one of the things I always say to people is that, multi-billion-dollar marketing budgets for these companies on social media keeps us distracted. It really does. And there's no way to get away from it as long as you realize that's the problem. So, when I started doing, the work, let's just say there's what we call the fourth step. The fourth step is basically taking all your inventory and you write it down, and then you turn it over to someone like a mentor, a spiritual guide or whatnot. And when you turn your fourth over to the fifth, you're supposed to take it and burn it, like do a little burning session, like a seance and stuff, and go, okay, now I'm done. I told someone all my deep and darkest secrets, and I can just move on with my life. Well, I did not burn it. I ended up saving all of it. And I decided a couple of years ago, I said, this is actually, it's all the work that I've done. It's just too juicy. I need to get it out on the market so I can share it with people. So I took my fourth step. There was like 4 copies of it, like different versions of my fourth step. I put it into the book and I basically launched my fourth step into the market. And people were like, oh my gosh, Cathy just put her fourth step in the market. And that's just like deep, dark secrets that you never want to tell anybody. It's like, those are the things that you want to take to the grave. And I basically put it onto the market. And I always say, the truth has set me free. It really, really has. And so like self-actualization, every single day, Brandon, I learn more things about myself. Like I'm brave enough to sit here and just talk, share. I'm not even sure how this conversation is going to evolve, but I'm just like so excited. I get to be with somebody new. I get to share my voice. I get to do all of this. I have a lot of clarity in my life too. And, and again, I think what really put the nail in the coffin in terms of self-actualization is that I put something, I published it, and now I just have to add to it and learn more. I want to continue to learn, just learn, where I've come from so I can learn to help other people. So that's, I guess that's in a nutshell, but that's a lot.
Well, it's outstanding. And it was very well put, because this is part of the thing. I mean, really, you being able to know yourself to, air and publish your fourth step. I mean, that's huge. That's a really big deal. That's something my buddy Dewey Taylor calls really stepping into your discomfort zone. And that is a lot different than just stepping out of your comfort zone, because you can step out of your comfort zone that much and it's not that big a deal. What you did was really take a full plunge into being, a true exercise in authenticity. And it actually benefited you in ways that you didn't predict, which were amazing. I mean, that is so cool. How many people reached out to you after that, not only in shock, but kind of, regaling your openness to reveal that kind of stuff? I mean, did you get a lot of people that you didn't expect kind of reaching out going, oh my God, that is so cool you did that. Thank you for being so brave, because you've given me kind of the confidence to move forward with mine as well.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. There was so many, I wasn't shocked because I kind of knew what was going to happen as soon as I put my book, and the way that I put the book together. There's so much solution in that book. It's so meaty. It takes a long time. I always tell people, just grab a highlighter and, as you're reading it, and if you see something that resonates with you, just start and highlight it. So and I said, if you need to talk about it, feel free to use my language. It's all about language. It's developing language to figure out like what is going on. And I'm so grateful that I have so many different language sets, coming from corporate America. I work with a lot of people that are six-figure income earners, right? Multimillionaires and company owners. I have a CEO that just sold one of his companies off for over $800 million. And he decided that he was going to go buy a 5-star hotel, and it's like, these are like, all right, sounds good. You had an extra $400 million to spare and you went and go bought, a hotel, and it's like conversations like that. But I knew that it was going to really disrupt what, my business, but in a very powerful, profound way, to engage a new level of authenticity and vulnerability. Because there's a lot of people that don't talk about why the whole corporate burnout, for example. People are like, oh, I'm just so corporate. There's a lot of corporate burnout. I'm working too much. But at the end of the day, a lot of people bring their junk and their baggage into work, and they can't, and they're weighed down with all the stuff that the life stuff that's happening. So when I'm on the phone with my clients, I'm always diving really, really deep. I go far and wide and really deep, really fast. And they're like, wow, you relate to me. And I said, yeah, because I've been you. I hear you. I hear this pain that you're not saying, and it's just so profound. So when I actually published the book, I posted it on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a workspace, right? It's for all the professionals, and people that have known me for the past 24 years in my business were like, wow, I remember the time when that's what happened to you. No wonder you gained all that weight. No wonder you disappeared. No wonder all of these things. And it's so interesting too, because I shared with these individuals, I said, you know what? It took me a long time to develop my own story, because what I do for people is I share their stories so that they can find jobs. I am a storyteller for others, but when people ask me, hey, Cathy, how are you doing? I didn't even know how to answer that question. How am I doing? Really? And so I was able to finally start sharing my story. And when I started sharing my story, it just started healing me even more. And just to cap it off, the reason why I wrote the book the way I did was, I had to go to a psychiatrist. I had some things that were obsessive, very intrusive thoughts, just from some relationship stuff that was happening. And I've had miscarriages and I've had abortions and all of that. And I just didn't feel good about myself, and in being in the relationships that I was in, it was traumatizing. So I went to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist said, before you come in, I need you to write down 5 little traumas and 5 big traumas. And so I wrote these traumas down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, some of these traumas, I thought that I let go during the 5th step. I thought when I handed over, I'm like, I need to know more about what happened, what really, really happened to me. So I took these secrets, these 5 big secrets, and I put it in the book. And then I took everything else, like the solution, like how I walked on fire with Tony Robbins twice, how I went, to hang out with the shamans, and how I did all these drugs and alcohol, and I went down these alleyways that were just so dark and so out of character for an Asian American, So it was just a very amazing way to put it out in the market. But a lot of professionals looked at it and they're like, you know what, Cathy, we need to talk to you, because of a lot of our employees are struggling with the same thing, but they're so afraid of talking about it. So I'm really excited to share live right now with you that my very first candidate that I placed over 20 years ago, she reached out. She's actually working for a multi-billion-dollar organization. And she's asked me to come and speak to, I think her group alone is 1,000 Asian professionals, and to talk about my story, my traumatic story of addiction and how I was able to thrive and continue to be a professional. But like, who would have thought, like, this former drug addict, now it's like I can go speak to like a very large investment company, you know?
It's huge. And what you said there is perfect. And congratulations, by the way. I think that's so cool. So that's amazing. And what you're offering people, though, is a glimpse into the truth, into realism. And this is what I think is going on here with the energies lately. This is the era of authenticity. That is what people crave. You know, you threw your stuff out there against all of your preconceived notions, you know, like everybody, you want everything to be perfect and polished and, you know, all of that. But what's so great about this is that you showed everybody that you're not a finished product, that you're still working on stuff, and that you can be open and vulnerable with your audience. And that's so attractive because it's authentic. I'm telling you, this is like the way we're going. And those people that were so scared to speak up, they want to, though. It's inherent in them. And so they get that fuel from you. And you know that on small ways, they're making these types of impacts in the, you know, tending their own garden. They're definitely at least filtering a few of these ideas out in the ways that they can, even maybe like subliminally and things like that. But you've really empowered folks to just really get out there and just go for it. If nothing else, you've given people, you know, like the law of one. There's somebody out there who at least has gone through some things that I have. And so therefore what's available for her, which is all these boundless opportunities that you've created for yourself, that's also available for me. So they're not a broken, you know, story or used up or anything. Everybody is right where they should be. And this is one of the most interesting, I guess, just psychological observations to kind of come to, is really wherever you are right now is perfect. That's exactly where you need to be. And the more things have fallen apart in your life, great. That means that all the great stuff is right behind it. You know, that old darkest for the dawn thing. Now, I'm curious because you did mention shaman. We, you know, are big fans of the conversation about psychedelics and things like that. And I also wanted to ask you in that vein, on your recovery. Now, whenever you say recovery, is this something that you think that you're constantly in recovery? Because I wanted to ask you about kind of, again, just this idea that especially in 12-step programs, people will say, I'm an alcoholic, but you quit drinking 30 years ago. So in some people's opinions, that kind of perpetuates this not good enough type of a thing. Like you weren't good enough or strong enough to heal it on your own. So you constantly remind yourself with the label, because labels are super important. And so somebody that hadn't touched alcohol in 30 years still calls themselves an alcoholic. What do you think of that type of treatment? Do you agree with that?
Oh, yes. No, I love that question. Thank you for bringing it up because the recovery space has been so important, so pivotal in my life, in my transformation as well. I guess I'll just tell you a little story. So I consider myself as a recovered addict, a recovered alcoholic, or whatever. I have recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body and spirit. People that they say, you know, they say in our space, in our world, in our communities, if you're not in active recovery, then you're just in active addiction. Okay. So there's just, we live in a world of duality, right? It's cold and hot and whatnot, but if you're not in active recovery, and also the I am statement is very, very important. And a lot of people come in very confused as well. And they say, well, yeah, you haven't touched a drug in 20 years. Why do you keep calling yourself an addict or a recovered addict? Or why do you keep talking about this? Well, because the program is designed that way. The minute you consider, or the minute you say, even if you come back into a meeting or whatnot, if you say that you are an addict, it's designed as identification. And that's all. In order to carry the message. So when you get to step number 12, you're carrying the message to another person that needs your help, that doesn't know that there is help out there. So I have a very, very high level of respect for, the founders of, the 12-step program. You know, they were, they did hit their bottoms, but they were bankers and they were doctors, and these people were just like, there's something about this that we need to figure out, and how, essentially, we need to figure this out. And abstinence was the way. And so what I've learned in my own recovery is that I need to abstain from it. And the only way that I can, if I continue to abstain from a certain something, then I can continue to live an emotionally sober life. There's, I've used to say before all the time is, I've removed all the chemical dependencies away. But when you remove chemical dependencies, you're just left with a bunch of emotions you don't know what to do with. And, people get really addicted. I use the word high. I can get high off of everything. I can get high off of like this conversation right now. I'm I'm so excited to be here. I can get high off of sugar. I'm a sugar addict. Right. I mean, there's people who can just go off the rails, but I think it's just a level of awareness, but also the identification is, it is kind of our moral code, like our code as well, to help another person. And again, going back to being of service, and I know that the reason why I've been very successful in a lot of my endeavors is because I come from a servant heart, even though and that's what God wants, right? And that's what the universe wants. And I grew up as a Buddhist, and, I've kind of found my way. I was the seed of, some other religious programs and affiliations came to my life. But I really believe that there is some greater force. We are not alone here. There is something out here, and I can't do this alone. And so I'm just really grateful that I get to identify, as this person. And I do, unfortunately I break my anonymity all the time. I go, oh my gosh, I'm a food addict too. I think I can help you. It's like that whole Me Too movement, right? When somebody says, oh, I'm having a problem. Oh, I'm having a problem. Now, like you're like your best friends and you can help the other person. So that it brings me a lot of joy that I have a lot of solution for people and I can offer that to them.
Is this an active battle for you? Because just personally behind the curtain here, I quit drinking after drinking since I was 18 a year ago, and I have no desire whatsoever. It's not something I need to be actively battling constantly. It was just like, oh, okay, I'm done with that now, and I moved on to other things. So do you find that this is a constant pull for you in that direction? Because I have no desire whatsoever to have any drinks of alcohol whatsoever.
Oh my God, you sound just like me right now. I love that you said that. I have no desire to drink at all too. Like I can walk right past, I can hang out with my sisters, I can see my siblings, my family, and they can just be drinking and ordering. And I'm just like sitting here, just like really happy for them. I'm glad that they can drink, and who knows, what if they have a problem too? But I mean, that's none of my business. But I do not have any desire today. I get so fulfilled in so many other ways, even seeking knowledge, I'm just an avid learner too. I have learned so much in my life. Even though my grades in college were just so bad, after I graduated, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much, so many other things to learn. And there's just so many unique people in and out of my life. I've had so many different types of relationships out there. And I just love, I love getting to know people too. And then of course, I'm a recruiter, so I'm very inquisitive. I'm very, very curious about people. I'm very fascinated by the human mind and the human potential. We can do anything we want. We really can.
I could not agree with you more, and I share your enthusiasm for this. It's this. You and I get lit up by the same things. This is simple things, and I like that. But it's real base and core. We're not arguing about which team won the game, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We have real base. Let's talk about real things, and that's what lights us up. That's a real altruistic quality. So I can get why you're so successful. And you mentioned potential, and so this is something that's really interesting to me as well. The state of potential is just, of course, in physics, it just means it could have some cool stuff going on, but it's not yet because it's not going anywhere. So what's some advice that you've got to take us from these folks that feel like they're stuck in this perpetual potential and really put something kinetic behind it to get some energy moving forward?
I love that question. So I'll have to say that for so many years, I was enslaved in a mental prison for so long. I mean, there was just so much shame and so much guilt. A lot of things that I did, I would be like, oh my gosh, if my parents ever knew, like, and these are the things that I would just take to my grave, you know? I lived a very sheltered life. I was extremely lonely. I was, even though I had two siblings, I was kind of tasked to be their, be their caretaker because my mom was dealing with her own depression as well. And I just coming from just fear. And then, something that I've said to people, it's like the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence all the time. And it's weird that I would even say this, but I grew up wanting my parents. I wanted to say that I came from a divorced household. And I was so angry that my parents never divorced. Like, they're still together. Right. And I would go to my friend's house and I'm like, wow, that's so fascinating. I want my parents to divorce too. Like, how is it like, having divorced parents? But again, it's just even those little, the little details. Right. But yeah, because of being enslaved in this mental prison for so long, I've been able to break free from it. And I know what freedom looks like today. It feels so good. It feels so, I have a lot of self-respect today. And, just knowing that I can put one foot in front of the other and I'm not going to go down like the rabbit hole. Yes, I mean, I do have obsessive compulsive thinking and I could go down the rabbit hole, but I don't stay down there very long. But today I know I can just do anything that I put my mind to, and people trust me today. That's one of the things, when I grew up with a lack of trust. I didn't trust my parents were going to stay even keeled. Like I felt like my parents were always going to fly off the handle, and I was always filled with anxiety and, just feeling like never safe at home, emotionally safe. Cause I don't want to call it my parents were emotionally abusive because that's just so cliche to say, but they were abusive. Like they were, they just had no idea. They would just, they didn't know how to raise us because they were teenagers, but I was able to break through. I was able to break through that, but to love and accept myself, that's how I was able to get to a place of, if I can love and protect myself from all the crap that I've been through my life, I can do pretty much anything.
Yeah, that's your test. That's how you know. And, you're going to be, I don't like to say tested by the universe because it's kind of like you anyway, right at a level. But really, that's what it is. It's like, okay, you say that you want this, here you go. And I've said this before. My grandmother used to say, oh, never pray for patience, honey, because you don't get patience. You get a bunch of crap that's going to teach you to be patient, right? So you would actually attract like a situation in which you are invited to practice that. And so it's not going to be pleasant, right? And so, and even that, it's like, just kind of, watch what you're looking for here. Now, something I wanted to ask you about as well is, again, back to the psychedelics thing. We have talked about ayahuasca, plant medicines, and things like that. Have you ever embarked on any of those journeys?
I have not. One of my friends, even though I've been presented that opportunity a lot, like even in my active recovery, I've had friends that says, hey, Cathy, you want to try it? If you want to go down that path. I don't know. I think I've already been to that side already. I've been there. I can see that. I know what it's like because I've done a lot of drugs in the past. I've taken a lot of ecstasy, just for days and stayed up and completely gotten really delusional. Oh, yeah. And I've already been to that side. I didn't need to get any higher than that, but I know it. That's something that would be very interesting if I ever broke sobriety, that would be it.
Well, and this is why I asked, is actually because that's why I asked, because yes, you are sober, and yes, this is technically an altered state, but I mean, so is sugar, so is, holding your breath for too long, so is going outside and spinning around with your arms out and getting dizzy and falling down. Like, that's an altered state, right? And so the benefits, though, of ayahuasca in the sense of just psychology and what it really allows you to do by getting you in this hyperactive state, your senses are expanded into these parts of you that you were in these excited states whenever trauma occurred, and it gets you back to that state so you can grab that little piece and deal with it. And they're usually like way over there. They're outside of your normal operating kind of bandwidth, And so this is why ayahuasca is so beneficial. And it's not, even Terrence McKenna said, if you use DMT more than once a year, you're a heavy, heavy user. And so this is not a recreational thing. This is not something you just do to get high and sit around and party. It is an actual recovery medication. Ayahuasca specifically. Now, iboga or ibogaine, the synthetic version of it, is really great for recoveries, for addicts. And so that's another thing I was curious about. If you ever did go back down that road, would that be something that you tried? But I may, and I mean, we can have a conversation about this off here, because I know the director of the Ayahuasca Foundation down in Iquitos, Peru. It's something I think you would get a great amount of benefit from, just simply because of the observation and just because you engage in different exercises here. But I will strongly also get it out of your mind that it's a party drug or that it's meant to have fun. It is a recovery tool, and that's it. Yes.
No, thank you. I have a lot of friends that, I have taken a lot of transformational development programs, and I look up to them, and they're just amazing human beings, and they're also global humanitarians as well, out to just help so many people. And, they're just amazing human beings, and they would come back from their little adventures and tell me all about it. And I'm just so fascinated by it too. I get my little kick from doing what we're doing now, just like, again, staying connected and being related to people. But I completely relate to what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're ever curious, we can, I'll go down there with you. That sounds like a lot of fun. So I am curious about your book. I definitely want to talk about your book, The Journey. So let's talk about your book, The Journey. What is your favorite part about that book?
I would say, I guess, writing the book, I was trying to figure out like the best way to put all the solution together and my story, because it's almost like, if when you read it, it feels like a feature film. It really does. There's like an opening and talks about when we had escaped Vietnam and, moved here, and how we grew up, who my parents were, all these little moments in time. I would say just the writing part was a beautiful part, but I love the fact that towards the end, the very tail end, of publishing the book, a month and a half, I changed the entire theme of the book.
Why not?
I changed, and I actually, first it was just going to be Cathy Trin's story, right? Just like the story of Cathy Trin's life. But then I said, I wonder what, like, the world, what would happen if I just, if I themed it something that was really important to me. Because I have been often, when I was in prior relationships, people would say, Cathy, you need to just slow down. Like, you need to slow down because you're just moving too fast. You're just like missing the mark here and there. You're cutting corners. And I would, and I mean, I had a Camaro, and the rim of the Camaro had scuffs on it. Every single rim, because I'm so distracted all the time just driving. And they're like, gosh, you have like the $70,000 car, and the car is like damaged. I'm like, I don't even know how that happened. But the end of the book, or the end of the writing process of the book, came out so perfectly, because a month prior to finding the publisher, I themed the book Mastering this Art of Slowing Down in Life. And then a month later, COVID happened. And I was just like, nice. Oh my gosh, this is like it was so themed so perfectly. And I believe in God, like the universe's divine timing. Everything happens, Brandon, exactly and precisely the way it's supposed to happen. Like our conversation right now, even the fact that I've got the same microphone as you and we're hanging out and we're doing this was supposed to happen. Even the cancer that I was diagnosed in 2018 had to have happened in order for me to have a book to write. There was a chapter in there, and to have all these other conversations, like the domino effect. You can't go back in your life. You can't change the left turn to the right turn at all. Like there's nothing that could have happened different for you and I to be together right now. I truly believe that. And it's not because it's fate or destiny or anything like that. I believe that we're just here and we're exactly where we're supposed to be here.
100%. And I'm a big fan of divine timing as well. And, it's so funny that you mentioned this as well, because all of the things that create us, who we are, this tapestry, this rich background of experiences that really shape us into who we are, they suck. Like all of the greatest things that's ever happened, all the greatest transformations in anyone's life, and I'm sure all of us can agree with this, those moments suck ass. But getting through them in a hurry and wishing them away is where you kind of detach from the process of the experience that's going to be valuable later in your articulation of it, because you really went into that pit. You sat in that, bones and all, and felt everything about it. And that's what makes you remarkable, inspiring, and relatable. And so when people really want to kind of ignore those parts of their lives, that's where the greatest hope, like that's where your greatest change happens. And so I'll encourage anybody listening right now, because I'm just on the other side of one of these big transformational time periods, and I know a lot of energies right now, a lot of folks are feeling this. Hang in there, because then the worse the fall, or the more intense is, the higher the indicator that you're right on the other side of greatness, and that is going to be something you're going to want to write down, because it's going to be in your book later called The Journey, which is awesome. Side question, who would play you in The Journey, the movie?
Oh my gosh.
I
haven't
anybody.
even thought of that yet. No, but I did reach out to a couple of screenplay writers, and we did have, right before the pandemic and the world shut down, I did put together a production team. We had our executive producer, and we, had the screenplay writer and all that. We were beginning to start our auditioning individuals for my role, and we don't know who it would be yet, but I would be just so excited for whoever wants to take on this role. It's a very unique position, because I feel like I'm a very unique person. I have so many different versions of me. Like I'm sitting here, and I feel very casual and relaxed with you, but then, when we're, I'm in my work mode, I can certainly hang out with investors all day long too. But who I am is just, I think you nailed it with the authenticity, just somebody that's really vulnerable. And I'm just like, I just have a lot to love. I have a lot of love to give, I want to love on everybody,
I love that you said that.
So it's exciting. But to answer your question, I don't know.
This may be a cool manifestation exercise for you, is to go ahead and cast your movie with the perfect cast that you want. Like, go ahead and have all the characters that are in your actual story that you want to make sure make it to the screen for the context, and then cast it. Like, see, maybe that's like a manifestation that you can do. Go ahead and cast your movie, and then maybe that'll bring it closer, because you're already like committing. You're like, oh yeah, they're so funny, and I know the way they take their coffee, because I went and hung out with them on set, that kind of thing. Maybe that'd be fun.
That sounds amazing. I think that will be the next but definitely the next thing is to find the speaker calls for or the right platform on the TED Talk. So I'd love to do that next, sometime this year. I did have an opportunity to go speak in Canada, but the speaker organizer, he ended up retiring. So he's like, here's all the notes, and this is how you get on, and this is what you're supposed to do. So, but yes, definitely a movie is at some point is going to be in the making too. So.
Hell yeah. Well, if we can be of service in any way, please just let me know. I'd love that. And I've had a gentleman on that we just became really good friends, a guy named Mel Schwartz. He's been on TED a couple of times. I'm going to send you all a connection email. He's so cool.
Oh,
You're going to love
you.
him. He's a psychologist. Okay. So before we wrap here, I just had a couple of final questions here for you. I want to talk to you about this mastery of slowing down. With a lot of the concepts that we talk about here with, driven workforces, with all of that, they're go, 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 go. And that can yield a certain set of results, perhaps like a cocktail of just stress, anxiety, and an opioid addiction, at some level. But, this art of slowing down, this just relax, this breathe, what is so appealing about that to you?
And I'll speak for myself first.
Sure.
We live in an adrenaline fueled society. And I lived in a very frantic, pack up your stuff and leave. And just constantly in fear. And I think another thing too, which I typically don't talk a lot about just because of out of respect for my ex-husband, who is now, he's actually doing great. He's
Good.
been out of prison now for a couple of years. So I'm just so proud of him, and his trajectory. But yeah, living with somebody that had bipolar manic depression was a very, very, very challenging, because you just never knew, or I didn't know how to get off the roller coaster. It was just always up and down. And I lived a very frantic life. Not only I had to handle my home life, I was suffering through, my weight gain, my weight losses, my own food addictions, but also having to manage my work too. And there was just no work-life balance. But from a slowing down standpoint, I'll share with you. About 6 years ago, I was watching this show. It's called Revenge, and I think we were on the 36th episode. And Bay says, "I wonder what episode are we on? What time frame is this?" And I looked at the screen, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but when you say something prior to it happening, you're like, oh my gosh, that's like alignment right there, synchronicities. And I said, you know what, babe? I'm like, I think it's present day. And the minute I said that, the words showed up on the screen. So immediately, a lot of my tattoos are of that nature. When something happens, I have to go get it stamped on my body so I can remember that it happened. So I do have a tattoo here. It's backwards here, but it does say present day. So when I see this present day tattoo on, and I've never showed this on screen before, but when I see this, I just know that we're here right now. When I talk to someone and they're like, do you remember what happened last year or oh my gosh, tomorrow is going to come and I'm just so afraid of it. I'm like, well, what day is it today? And they're like, I think Thursday. I'm like, no, it's right now.
Yeah.
Today. Let's just stay in today. So I came up with this idea, and I did write it in my book too. And it's the idea of being able to slow down so that you can experience extremely beautiful moments in your life. Because a lot of times when we're so distracted, moments just fly by and they're gone and you don't remember it, but they happened. So there is an idea and a concept that I came up with, and it's called the holy moments. So when you hear the word holy, it sounds very religious, but I did break the word holy down into an acronym. So the first, the H is actually for holistic moments in your life that you can create. Holistically, you can go eat or feed yourself with holistic healing and all that. But because you're present, you can actually experience a holistic moment for yourself. And then the O, you can imagine, would be an organic moment. So this conversation is extremely organic for me, and it's very, you and I are very, it's an organic introduction as well through our friend Grace. Mm-hmm. And so we have organic moments, but again, if we were present as we are now, we can actually feel it in HD. You know, it's like it's real and it's the reality of it right here. So I just cherish organic moments like this so much. And then the L, you can imagine, it would be for little moments in life. You've had these little moments, a little piece of the puzzle from a pie from a long time ago. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, do you remember that thing that happened like 5 years ago? That was a moment that I remembered, and it was a little moment, but it actually, it came full circle. Now it's like part of this, like this monumental moment of in your life that you've realized. And I love this last one. And I feel like I'm having a why moment with you right now. This is a moment that I've yearned my entire life to be on a really extraordinary podcast with an incredible human being that is of like-minded. It's like, I see you, because it's almost like this level of intimacy, right? It's into me, you see, I'm letting you into me, you see, it's like intimacy. And a lot of people, I don't want to say Americans, but Americans, we have a hard time. We're all sheltered in our own homes. There's no like even bumping into each other at a grocery store. We don't even say hi to each other. And sometimes I'm like, I intently look at people in the eyes. I'm like waiting for them to look at me, because I just want to get connected. And when we get connected, we can actually get related. So if you take the word relationship and you extract the word relate from it. So we're just trying to relate to people. And that's why a lot of people bump heads all the time, because they're not trying to relate to other people. They're just like, they're talking to you through their own filter, so.
They absolutely are. And I love your acronym. I love that. And I was thinking the only thing you could change is throw a W in front of it and make it holy, like holy instead of just holy. But beautiful. I absolutely love that. And it's a brilliant way that you articulate it. And again, this is why you're so, your mission is so attractive with this, is because it's something that it's beautiful and it's common sense, but I mean, common sense is not that common. And so for you, again, to be putting yourself out there, to be this voice of reason, to be so eloquent in the way that you approach, your desires and your goals in life. I mean, this is something, again, that's the trajectory of someone's life, them knowing where they want. Like, that's all you got to do. Decide a goal and micro goals up to it. And you'd be shocked whenever you just kind of decide your path. It's that thing from Alice in Wonderland when the Cheshire Cat says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will lead you there. And so by you deciding your path based on, your challenges and everything, again, my friend Dewey, I've just been talking to him a lot lately, so his metaphors, which are on point, I've got to hook you up with him as well. He talks about, your trajectory as a lightning bolt coming from sky to ground. Either way, the lightning bolt is going to hit the ground, right? It just depends on, but it takes the path of least resistance. So there's never, you never see a straight line of lightning, right? It's like going everywhere, it's super quick, but this is kind of a good metaphor or track for kind of our lives and how we go. All you got to do is keep moving forward, right? And so, again, your mission and what you're doing is amazing. I definitely wanted to ask you just a couple of fun questions here, and then we'll let it run. Earlier on, you were talking about the client that you had from 20 years ago, going from what he was doing and sold his business to now a 5-star hotel because he had an extra $400 million just hanging out there. What would you do? A fun, just lavish thing that you would buy yourself if you just had that kind of chunk of change lying around, like like dinosaur egg or jetpack or something like that. Like, what would you get?
Oh my gosh, what a fun question! I love it. So here's a fun fact, which is actually a real something that's happening. After I received that Global Humanitarian Award, I received a call from a publishing company in Vietnam, and they have been seeking out luminaries. So luminaries are people that have brilliant minds, or people that have changed people's lives, and they've identified me as being a luminary. They've asked if I wanted to translate my book into Vietnamese and go back to the universities in Vietnam to speak to young women that need inspiration, because that's really needed right now. I don't know if you knew this, but Vietnam has in 2014 the GDP was only about $50 billion, and now the GDP for 2021 during the pandemic, they closed the books out at $250 billion. So my homeland is thriving. Vietnam is thriving. And I didn't know that. Whenever I think of my homeland, I always just think of the little fishing village that I was born in. And that's all I can think of. But if I had an extra $400 million, I would love to purchase a large piece of land in Vietnam and build a fort on it. So I as large as 4, not football fields, but 4 airplane hangars, and just fill it and create for kids, dreamland, send any kid that's been traumatized by, even the US, kids from the US, it doesn't matter what language the child speaks, you bring them to dreamland so that they can dream. And would be such a beautiful place, and I would secure contracts. It would be a very philanthropic venture, and I would have all the companies in the world to come and just build little pockets of dreams for kids and send them there, do meditation practices. And again, they don't have to speak the same language. There's a very important thing with art. With art therapy, it's very interesting because when you have kids, kids can express themselves through art. So we have a lot of creative minds just building this dreamland on a plot of land in Vietnam. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. That's a great dream. I like your vision because, again, it's altruistic. You're here to change lives, and especially the lives of youth that have, from our from our upbringing, like you and I, we had some challenging times, and something else I just kind of wanted to mention back to something that you said earlier was, that it's interesting how you transcended the hectic home twice. You did it with your parents and indoctrination when you were walking around on eggshells, and same thing with your husband, same scenario. And then now, because of those two examples, one where you were raised and one more of a chosen, you were able to see it in 2 different vantage points. And now this is how you're able to articulate the art of slowing down, is because you've been bombarded by that, for that good amount of time of your life. So I just wanted to compliment you on that alchemy that you created there.
Oh,
and and then absolutely to what you're saying about your goals and dreams. I love this. I hope you succeed this. And again, if there's any way that we can be of service, please let me know, because I'm on board with this idea. Faux show. Okay, final question, then I'll let you have the last word on this. What do you think aliens are? What's going on with that?
I think they're real. I know that we're not alone. There's something that I discovered a long time ago. Someone planted the seed in me, an idea that I believe, which holds a lot of truth. There's something called starseeds. And I just feel that whole idea of being, there's individuals here, on the planet that have, that can actually see into the future. I feel, and I don't want to, I guess I'm saying this, recorded here, but I feel like I might be a starseed. I do see a lot of things in the future as well, but maybe it's because I am the future. I am an immigrant. There's a lot of refugee immigrants right now stuck in the situation I was stuck in 45 years ago. I am also a cancer survivor. So if I can get on the phone with somebody who's dealing with just being diagnosed and being treated with cancer, I am their future. I can say, hey, look, I've had thyroid cancer. No, it didn't kill me. So I can help you. I can really, really help you. So I have lived a lot of lives, but to not fully elaborate on this, but I feel like there's a lot of special beings, even roaming this planet that are born here to help others, that have the veil has not been lifted from their eyes. And I think that, I feel like you're very, very special too. You see a lot, and we both kind of see each other. And I'm so honored to now be able to be with you and hold this mirror up for you to allow you to see how great an extraordinary person that you are too, even though I know you know it. But you're so amazing. You're so special, Brandon. I'm just so honored.
Thank you so much. And again, I'm truly, truly grateful for the kind words. It's very sweet of you. It took me a long time to be able to receive a compliment like that. And so thank you for allowing me the opportunity to practice it and be a mirror to you as well. So this is all amazing, and I love connections like this. And Grace is just like this, right? She actually introduced me to Dewey. So the dude I've been talking about the whole time, this is all through Grace too. So Cathy Trinh, thank you so much. We'll absolutely invite you back. This was an amazing talk, and just thanks again. I really appreciate it. All the ways, guys, of course, to find her will be located down in the show notes. Make sure that you check out her books, her website. All of it will be linked. Thank you again, Cathy. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I want to thank Cathy for coming by and hanging out with this super cool conversation. She is wonderful. All of her books and her podcast and everything like that will be located down in the show notes for you guys to check out. So definitely check her out further. Wonderful conversation, Cathy. Thank you so much for coming on and hanging out. Now, down in the show notes as well is going to be our resource link. So we have Food Forced Abundance down there. Definitely get your freedom from fear on. Opus, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, as well as Red Circle. That is who we have recently switched hosting to. We're very excited to partner with them. So definitely check that link out. If starting your own podcast is something that you've been like, man, I don't know if I want to do it, just do it. It's the coolest damn thing. You get to talk to amazing people like Cathy all the time, and it's just been one of the biggest changes in my life that's made one of the most positive impacts. So check the link down there. It's titled Start Your Own Podcast, I believe with all exclamation points, because I am emphatic that anybody that wants to do that should absolutely do that. So let's give you a little bit of a boost there with that link. Also down there, guys, check out the Manifestor's Guide, promo code Expanding Reality, all caps, no spaces. It's located down there as well. You can just copy and paste it in at checkout. Gives you 10% off of the already discounted link that he's got down there as well. That has absolutely changed my life, so I could not recommend it more. So highly, highly recommend that, guys. Utilize that link. Also, while you're down there, expandingrealitypodcast.com. Go ahead and sign up to become an Expansive Insider. There's a 10% off on that as well if you want to check that out. That's where all the amazing bonus conversations that we're having are over there. Just released an incredible one. Go check that thing out, as well as the panel series that we're doing, the X panel series, and all the collaborations. So it's a wonderful way to value exchange with the show, which is another thing I want to mention. If you find value in this show, go ahead and click the link down there called Support the Mission, and you guys can contribute as little or as much as you'd like. There's no cap on that, and that is a massive benefit for all of us moving forward into a greater version of ourselves. And this puts us on our mission to do more amazing, mind-expanding conversations like this and on to bigger and bigger plans in the future. So definitely check that out, guys. And I'm grateful to everyone who's on board with what we're doing here. And it's just the coolest thing ever. You guys are wonderful. So go out into this incredible place this week, y'all, and just pick up a piece of litter if you see it floating around, as well as buy somebody in line around you a coffee or a meal. Something super small goes a long, long way in the collective energetically. Also, go ahead and get out of that left-hand lane if you got somebody behind you wanting to pass there. And of course, beyond anything else, go out into this incredibly beautiful place, and y'all just be good to one another. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, for engaging, and for being just such an amazing aligned audience. We will see you next time.